Okay, we are live.
Oh, are we?
Yay.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yay.
Uh,
yeah, we're here. We're live. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. Let's get the show on the road, if you will. Hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Elvis Presley. I'm Alan Cram.
I'm Ryan.
and I'm Devin. And I'm also so sad we didn't keep that going. I would have loved
Yeah.
to try and Elvis.
I mean-
No.
I mean, I'll go in and out of it if you want, but
I want it.
Yeah.
I want it all podcasts. Please, please, please.
no, because I can't really talk about some of the stuff with doing that voice. But
Ooh.
yeah. So today, if you haven't figured out, we're talking about the 2022 film nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor at the Oscars, and Worst Supporting Actor at the Razzies, Elvis. We'll talk about all of that later on in the show. But before we get into that, we like to start off the show by talking about things that we haven't watched in pop culture. We've watched in pop culture over the last week to get the guys to watch things that we're watching outside of the topics for the show. And case in point, last week Devin went on and on about The Last of Us. Was this last week?
This was last week. It was
Yeah.
only last week. Yeah.
So I caved. I saw all the reviews for episode 3 and how everyone's saying it's the best TV show of all time, like best TV episode of all time. So I started watching The Last of Us. And I have thoughts.
Tell me.
Post 2020, post apocalyptic stuff hits different.
Yeah.
And I think I will watch any show that the creator of this does because I absolutely love Chernobyl and I'm enjoying the show so far. And I'm only one episode in. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Good recommendation there, Devin.
I'm really happy you like it. I saw the most recent episode 3, and was completely blown away. And I was like, guys, we can't talk about it on the podcast, but I'm going to talk about it to you guys. So
Yeah.
glad you're watching it.
Yeah. Ryan, are you going to watch it?
Yeah, at some point I will.
Okay.
I almost watched it twice this week, but other stuff distracted me.
What
That's okay.
distracted you?
Hmm?
Give me names. What distracted you?
Oh, it's gonna make you mad. I decided to get back into the FIFA games,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
so I decided to play video game soccer instead of watch that.
You know, they actually made a TV show based off of that too.
Is it?
It's Ted Lasso.
Oh, I knew it was going to be Ted Lasso. Good job.
Yeah, that's how that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, what?
Yeah.
Besides playing FIFA, what else did you watch this week?
Okay, so I watched a movie from 2016 called the Blinko Experiment.
Belko, I believe it's
Belko.
Belko.
Thank you.
Yes.
Belko. It came out in 2016. It's got a lot of what I would consider like B-list actors in it. And I like it. I like it a lot. It is basically take The Office and Office Space and make them battle royale each other against their will. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. It totally ends with a crazy setup that would have that opens up for a possible second one, but I don't think they ever made it. This might be one I have you guys watch, to be honest, because there's a lot of stuff in it I think you guys would like. There's things in it that I think you might hate, all in the same movie. But it is on Tubi right now for free with ads. And it's got like a 6.1 on IMDb. So it falls into my pre-decision watch statistic.
Okay. Devin, have you heard of this movie?
Never in my entire life. Have you?
I have. It's produced by James Gunn, director behind Guardians of the Galaxy, now the head of DC Studios, who
Wow.
made some announcements today. Do we want to talk about that quick because
Yeah.
we segued into it naturally? So DC announced their upcoming slate for their Chapter 1, they're calling Gods and Monsters. So they announced 10 new projects coming out. They announced 5 TV shows. One of them is animated, and that's Creature Commandos, Waller, which is going to be an Amanda Waller series based on...
Oh.
My camera keeps autofocusing on the Elvis record behind me. So I need to
feels
block
appropriate
him
though,
out.
right?
It does, yeah. See? Yeah.
I'm actually just shocked you have Elvis Gold on record.
I
gonna
bought
be
that
on-
this weekend. We'll talk about it then. I got to get rid of it though. Because my camera does not know how to autofocus anything else.
Listen, it was in the opening shot. We know it was there. It's
Yeah.
good.
Amanda Waller show. There's going to be a Green Lantern show with Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, a Booster Gold series, and a Paradise Lost adaptation about Themyscira. All of those going to HBO Max. And then movie-wise, they announced Superman Legacy, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Swamp Thing, which is going to be a horror movie, The Authority, and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Anything in that list jump out to you guys as interesting?
So, hold on, Paradise Lost, like the John Milton book, like from.
No, it's based off of a Wonder Woman arc that they just did. It's like about battle on Paradise Island, which is Themyscira.
Stupid me. Okay, I think the one thing that I'm going to say is that I have a problem with DC things, and that I hate their titles like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're gonna give me a Supergirl show, give me a Supergirl show. Don't call it Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
It's a movie. It's not a show. It's a movie.
It doesn't make it better. It sounds like those old timey days where they're like, a woman traveling alone on an airplane. My goodness, Woman of Tomorrow. Like that's what it sounds like to me. I don't love it at all.
Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Swamp Thing.
Is that
okay? Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, so to be honest, DC always has the most for me in general, has some of the most random superhero villain characters that I always forget that are part of DC and not just like a random offshoot of like their own thing. And Swamp Thing is one of them. I always forget that Swamp Thing is part of DC and not just like some character that's done on like a private label.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the Swamp Things and like the Toxic Avenger stuff growing up, because even though I know they're two different things, I always lump them together. And it's always interested me. Like a giant green blobby seaweed man is like here to save the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and knowing the picks that you usually have for We Watch This, I feel like this is going to be right up your alley with it being a horror movie. So
there we go.
Is it going to be a horror movie?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
I'm excited for a lot of these. Like, I didn't expect them to announce a new Batman movie with the Batman Part 2 coming out, because I think that's what they're calling it now. But
wow.
I'm excited for The Brave and the Bold. I'm not excited to hear that James Gunn's favorite Robin is Damian Wayne. It's like, judging you a bit for that. But, yeah, so that's some exciting stuff that happened today. Devin.
Yes.
What have you watched in the last week?
I watched a TV show. I watched all of a TV show, which is really rare for me. But I watched all of this show called The Bear. It's a 2002 TV show about a young chef from the fine dining world who returns to Chicago to run his family's sandwich shop. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It's wonderful. The only thing I had known about it before going into it is someone went, this is probably the most realistic depiction of working at a restaurant that I've ever seen on television. And I was like, well, that's enough to get me interested. And I loved it. It was so good. Yeah. Have you guys seen or heard of this?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet. But my family has a history of working in restaurants, so I'm interested. I've been interested in this one for a while. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy that I knew on Facebook. I've known since college, and he was a chef in a handful of bars in the Lehigh Valley area and in Philly for a while, and he absolutely loved it when it first came out.
Oh wow, that's great.
So I mean, I've been interested in it. Just again, like I've never worked in a restaurant, so I haven't really been that interested in watching it. But
sure, I think it's just a good story, and the nice thing about it is that it's like 8 episodes long, and like each episode, it's 8, and each episode is like 30 minutes. It's not like prestige TV where like it's 2.5 hours per episode and they made 8 of them. So good luck with your whole weekend. Like this is a nice quick little watch.
It's not TV. It's FX on Hulu. Uh,
Is that what it is? It's just on Disney Plus over here.
yeah, over here it's on Hulu because Disney Plus here, uh, they have to put a warning in front of Deadpool, so.
Good. So they should.
Yeah, so it's on Hulu for us because we have Hulu and you don't.
You guys are lucky that way.
We also, Devin, I have a streaming service question for you. Do you guys have Peacock in the UK?
No. No. What is Peacock? Tell me about it. Is
Peacock,
it
is NBC. They have their own streaming service over here. So I'm curious if you can even watch the show where you are. But there's a new show on Peacock, which I think we talked about last week a little bit. Ryan Johnson produces this show. It's called Poker Face, starring Natasha Lyonne. It's pretty much a modern day Columbo.
How is it? Is that good?
It's very good. It's very old fashioned with the way they tell the story, and the way they film it. Like it fits the format of Columbo, but every time she hears somebody lie, she just says bullshit. Like she like just flat out says it every time. And it's good. Cliff from Cheers shows up for an episode. They released 4 episodes to start, which is a lot. But the first few are directed by Ryan Johnson. So if you liked Knives Out and Glass Onion, this is for you. And it's a 10-part series. So they're almost halfway through the season already, but it just came out. So
how does a series that like feels like Columbo hold up to like a 2023 audience though? Because like isn't it just like Murderer of the Week, kind of like the same kind of crap you'd get with like CSI and
the way they do it? Have you ever seen Columbo? Evidently this is on Sky TV for you. In the chat.
Great. Thanks, chat.
The way Columbo starts is almost every week they show you the murder. You know how it happens. So the whole time it's you following the detective as he figures it out. So you follow Columbo as he's like putting the pieces together to solve the crime that you know how it happened. Mm-hmm. In this, they show you the crime and then they go back and show you where Natasha Lyonne was the whole time. Like it does a time thing, which I really enjoy. And they play with that a little bit each episode. It's a little bit different. So, yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm excited for more. So that was one of my picks. My other pick is another show on Apple TV called Shrinking, starring, I never thought I'd say this sentence, starring Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Ryan, have you seen this show? Have you heard of this show? Okay.
No.
It's it's from the creators of Ted Lasso. So it's Bill Lawrence, who did Ted Lasso and Scrubs, and Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent. Because he's here, he's there, he's everywhere.
Good.
This feels a lot like Ted Lasso. Like I can see this show growing to be like that kind of show. Because the Jason Segel character is so optimistic, but also like down on his wife died, so he's like recovering from that and like dealing with it, and his daughter's relationship. And then Harrison Ford is just playing the grumpy old man the whole time. Like he's there for the paycheck, and you can tell, but he's still funny. But it's funny. It's got heart. It's got Bill Lawrence's wife because she's in everything that he does at some point. I highly recommend this if you like Ted Lasso.
There's just there's this vein of, that's Bill Lawrence's wife. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like vein of like kind of shortish comedies that are like kind of almost comedies on the front, but have this really nice vein of like real human emotion behind them that like I think Scrubs capitalized on really well. That like I haven't gotten in the same way since Scrubs. Would you kind of call this similar? Like, is it kind of as good?
I would say it has a lot of heart. I know you haven't watched all of Ted Lasso, but it
No.
has that too.
Yeah.
How many episodes of Ted Lasso have you seen?
I'm only like halfway through season 1. I'm not far at all, and not for any
Okay.
good reason. I liked it when I watched it. I'm just not good at
Yeah,
watching it.
you've got time before season 3 comes out this spring, so get
Is it
on
actually
that.
coming out? I heard it just wasn't coming out.
It's coming out, yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
they shot it. They're gonna do it. We before the show, we actually watched the episode of 30 Rock where Jason Sudeikis shows up, like clean shaven, baby face. I'm like, this is weird.
Oh.
I don't like this.
I just like you were watching 30 Rock. Well done.
Yeah.
Love that show.
Ryan, you finished Ted Lasso, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
several times.
Yeah. So
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow, good job.
yeah, I started rewatching it again a few weeks ago. Haven't gotten far, but
You're probably as far as I am then.
probably am. But yeah, so those are our picks for We Watched This week. Let's get into today's main topic. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. This is a film that came out last summer, starring Austin Butler as the titular Elvis and Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker, Elvis's manager. We talked about this on the show before because we did Moulin Rouge around the time this came out. And we were all kind of dubious of this movie. Like, we weren't sure what it was going to be. And I took the plunge and watched this a few weeks ago and talked about it on We Watched This. And decided to move it up in my pick list because after watching this movie, I became obsessed with the soundtrack. And I've been listening to it like parts of it at least once a day, like on my commute. So I watched this on HBO Max for the first time a few weeks ago. Told my thoughts then. I really enjoyed this film. I think Austin Butler gives a great performance. Tom Hanks is there. I have thoughts on the use of Baz Luhrmann's style of filmmaking in this because I think it works in parts more than it does in others. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about Doja Cat being in the soundtrack for an Elvis movie. Devin, go ahead and look up who Doja Cat is. That's fine.
I did already. Don't you worry.
But yeah, so those are my thoughts on Elvis, just to get us started. What did you guys think of Elvis?
Ryan, you want to go first?
Okay, if you want me to go first,
I want
will.
you to go first.
Okay, so if it wasn't for this show, I would never watch this movie.
Okay.
Okay.
So just putting that out there. It was good. I would definitely put it in the same category as the Elton John and the Freddie Mercury one. Like, it's definitely in that category when it comes to like music biopics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. I enjoyed it. It definitely strengthened some opinions that I already had about Elvis and the whole industry that was built around him. And there were other things that I enjoyed that they did, that they kind of showed parts of his life that I didn't even know about. And then I was upset later when I looked up, what the movie took liberties with his life and what it got right. And then that kind of counteracted the moments that I thought I felt good about. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
No, there's definitely a bit of that because it is a film adaptation of his life. It's not verbatim, but it's also told from an unreliable narrator, which is Colonel Tom Parker. So it does skew a bit, and maybe not in the best light for him, because it definitely takes a side in the Elvis versus Colonel Parker story. But we'll get into all that later. I've got an article up here with
Oh wow.
What's fact and what's fiction in Elvis. Devin, what are your thoughts?
Okay, there are times when the Baz Luhrmann style really, really freaking works in this movie and connects me to it right away. And I think for every time that I went, hold on, this is really, really good, I had like two other moments where I was like, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. This is the worst. I think that I might be burnt out on the music hero biopic genre in general. So it didn't do itself any favors that way. And to be entirely honest, in some ways it made me not like Elvis a lot. And we'll have to talk about some of my feelings there. I don't want to get too deep into that, but I kind of came away with this movie going, some of that was really great, and some of that was like the very end scene where they show real Elvis and real clips of real Elvis, and I was so captivated. And then they followed it up by the most dumpster fire song that Elvis has ever recorded within the ghetto, and I went bah and turned the movie off.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of strong opinions and weird opinions about Elvis, so a lot of that is
Okay.
coloring my opinion here.
Well,
So just hold on for that.
Let's talk about it. Let's
Okay.
talk about Elvis. Going into this, I didn't really have an opinion of Elvis. I didn't know, like, I knew some of his songs. I knew like A Little Less Conversation from Ocean's 11 and when it was a big hit in like early 2000s. But I never really had an opinion of the artist himself. And I came away from this film respecting him as an artist a lot more. Go from this viewpoint of how the film shows him keeping his roots, like knowing where he came from and not shying away from that, the Memphis style and the kind of music that he started out doing, and how he always came back to that. So like when you get into In the Ghetto, like at the end, I was like, okay, this song has a new context for me now, knowing his background and all of that. So what were your guys' thoughts of Elvis going into this and then coming out of it?
So going into it, I didn't have too many thoughts on him. I kind of knew the headlines about Elvis. I knew, Graceland. I knew all of that stuff. I know that, I had an aunt that like was convinced that he was still alive and would like troll through old Elvis impersonator performances because one day she'll see the real one. But like I didn't have like too many thoughts on Elvis himself. And for some reason, the part that you said that you liked about him hit really different for me. And I want to know if I'm the only one that thought this way. Because leaving the movie, I had a little less respect for Elvis. Because there was a lot of times when exactly the thing that you said that you liked about it, where he kept going back to his roots, kept going, this is the style of music I love. This is what I want to show. This is what I want to give the world. It's this music, it's this style. But I think him as a mouthpiece for that style and him as like not only the mouthpiece for it, but then who he was playing that style of music for was so incongruous with who he was cribbing from. And there are times when you can see that he's literally taking songs that are done by other performers. Like I think Hound Dog was exactly that. They showed somebody singing Hound Dog at like a music club, and then you show him singing Hound Dog, and the audience is distinctly different, especially for that era. The person playing the music is distinctly different, and I can't help but feel like other people have done what he's done but better, and the only reason that people like what he's doing is the whole it's him. It's this, I mean, look, Elvis is a beautiful man. It's this beautiful man shaking his hips in a way that everybody kind of likes and is kind of dirty. And I can't help but feel like that's the reason why that music got popular and why he liked that. And every time he kept going back to his roots in the movie, I'm just like, you're just stealing more from these people. And I think that part of it was really hard for me to separate. And I know that was probably a really unfair read of the movie. And it was probably pretty ungenerous because the movie doesn't portray it that way. But that's really what I left with feeling.
Okay. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I knew kind of like Devin. Like I had family that owned like Elvis. But to be honest, like I do not like Elvis the person. No, I didn't say that right. I do not don't like Elvis the person. He's fine. He's whatever. He's a product of where he grew up, of his time, of the music that he liked. I'm not going to take away anything that he did because it was just what he liked to do and what he liked to perform. What I meant before about the whole industry that was built around him, the type of music that he sang and that he performed with was performed by other people for 10 plus years prior to Elvis doing it. But because Elvis looked like us, he got the he's the one that got that got the success on it. And this is something that I've had an issue with ever since I was like a teenager.
Mm.
For me, the way the film portrays it, at least from the Elvis standpoint of it, to me, it comes across as he didn't necessarily want to be known for that, but he was getting so much flack when he got away from that he was like pressured into becoming what, like, conforming into what the congressman wanted him to be, like, to the point where he has to enlist, but he didn't want to shy away from those roots. And the movie tells the story in 3 acts, the 3 acts of Elvis's life, his rise, his comeback, and then his final years in Vegas. The rise, like, I can see the issues with the rise stuff. Like, I absolutely get that. Where I really found the respect for Elvis was the comeback special sequence.
Yeah.
The part of this movie that stood out to me the most, that made me respect Elvis more, and they play with time a little bit with the movie. Like, Robert Kennedy did not get shot when they were filming the comeback special. It was a few weeks before, but still, like, the "If I Can Dream" is the song that stuck with me from this movie, and I think it's because, like, you look at the lyrics to that song, it's still relevant and it's ahead of its time. Like, I saw somebody compare it to Imagine by John Lennon, and it's like, this is a better song than Imagine, and it has the same message, but it's just better. I was like, you're not wrong. And I'd never heard this song until this movie came out. Because I missed Celine Dion duetting it with him on American Idol in like 2008.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's very strange.
It was. It was before. It was before the Tupac hologram. So
all of that sense is just abhorrent to me. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I mean, and Alan, to back you up, like, that's one of those things where it's like, that's why I said I do not blame Elvis for anything for what I was talking about, because he grew up where he grew up. He was surrounded by the friends that he had. He grew up listening to the music that he liked, and he wanted to perform that music. So I have no problem with him dancing the way he danced, and music, in the music that he was doing. He wasn't putting on a performance to pretend he was someone else to become famous. He was just performing the way that he knew how. It was the fact that it took him to put that music more on the map in the mainstream, where it should have been to begin with, before he became famous.
Yeah. And I think, like, the film highlighting for the moment Little Richard acknowledges that. Like, it acknowledges, like, you had this other talent too, and, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next movie Baz Luhrmann does is a Little Richard biopic.
Well, and it's something they talk about in the very first scene of the movie, and I wrote this down. It's where Tom Hanks is, you see Tom Hanks first, and he's talking to his sideshow performers, and then the country singer's son comes up and puts on the record, and they're telling him to turn off the record because, frankly, they're being racist. And he goes, "Oh, no, it's Elvis. He's white." And they're like, "What?" And their attitude completely changes about the music, and they're more excited about it than annoyed by it. And it was right at the start of the movie, and I'm like, thank God they did this, because this has been my biggest issue with his entire career, my entire life, is the fact that, like, yeah, he's got good songs. I'm not denying that he was a talent. It was just, I know so many people who are much older, who were huge Elvis fans, Elvis plates, Elvis things on their car, Elvis shirts, like everything Elvis. And I'm like, maybe there's a reason why you liked Elvis and not the other people. And I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Devin, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I always, now that you are all bringing it up, there's definitely a lot of subtext to how people are reacting to Elvis that isn't immediately obvious in the movie, doesn't poke in the way that I wanted it to. And I think it's because of Alan, who you said, the unreliable narrator, right?
Mm-hmm.
The narrator isn't going to flat out say, "This is why we liked Elvis so much," but they'll definitely show you this is why we liked Elvis so much, and how
Yeah.
immediate and swift the backlash was to him, performing in a tux and being not him, and how he needed to go back to it. Yeah, I didn't catch that, I guess.
Yeah. So let's talk about Colonel Tom Parker a bit, because
Oh, we gotta.
Tom Hanks in this movie. Can you name any other movie where Tom Hanks plays a villain?
No.
Castaway.
Wilson was the villain, and you all know it.
No, he didn't do a thing to save Wilson.
Is that
All
why
he cared
he's
about
the
was
villain?
himself. Yes. He didn't care enough about Wilson. That's what happened.
So by that logic, Kate Winslet is the villain of Titanic because she let Jack
she
freeze.
is. Yeah, she is. I'll never let you go. I'll never let you go, Jack. What does she do? She lets him go and he sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
Because he's dead. Like,
She said she would never let him go. She said she would never let him go, and as she's saying it, she shakes her hand loose. She's a
She
liar.
should still be holding his corpse right now, today.
At least the hand.
all right. Anyway, back to Tom Hanks. What did you guys think of his performance as Colonel Tom Parker?
Oh, it was so good. It made me so angry half the time. It was such a good performance.
Okay, first off, we as a society need to stop doing Dutch accents in movies. Just say they're German. Just don't, or just say that they're Dutch but have an American accent, because, like, not even close. But, like, the Dutch accent's really hard for Americans to do in general. Like, I can't do a Dutch accent, and, like, I've been among them. So, like, I don't know how to do it. I can't.
Sorry.
Why'd you like
I've been
that?
among them. It was the way you said that would just caught me off guard. I'm sorry.
So
I think the other thing is I hate snow job. Don't say snow job in a movie ever to me again. I hated it.
Yes. That should not be used in any other context than what we millennials know it as, and that's it.
Yeah. Quick reminder. Please remind me what a snow job is.
I'm not doing it on the show.
Devin can.
Oh, don't you worry, baby. I got you all day.
I might regret that.
It's literally just when he pulls one over their eyes. It's like him saying it's all show business, but it's all snow business. It's kind of it. It's kind of the whole deal.
Sounded like Goldfinger. Goldmember. There we go.
Listen, I'm trying to do the Dutch accent again.
It's okay.
So was Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. People who knew Tom Parker have said that he didn't sound like that. They also in the movie don't ever say that he's Dutch. They really play loose with his origin story and they hide it from you. They also hide the fact that he had a family, like a wife and kids.
What?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
But it's the unreliable narrator stuff. Like when this movie first was announced, it wasn't an Elvis movie. It was a Colonel Tom Parker movie. Do you guys remember where you were when you found out Tom Hanks had COVID?
I do.
He was in Australia.
Yeah.
He was.
What do you think he was working on?
They
Elvis.
filmed this in Australia?
It's Baz Luhrmann, baby. He made a whole movie about Australia, starring Australians in Australia.
He did, didn't he? Gross.
Okay.
Yeah. So that alone is like the puts Elvis in the history books. Like everyone remembers when Tom Hanks was diagnosed with coronavirus. I have the article here. March 12th, 2020. Like that's the moments where I'm like, oh God, maybe this is serious. Like, and it was Elvis. Just imagine Elvis, like Tom Hanks getting a COVID test in that makeup. Like,
Oh.
and
I
like,
don't want it.
and if I don't know if Tom Hanks is a method actor, but if he has to go to the doctor with that accent, like just imagine that.
I don't want it.
Okay,
Poor
so getting to who the main character is, and the fact
Yes.
that he narrates this movie, which I kind of liked. I'm not gonna lie. But at the very beginning, and I made this note where like he's being rushed to the hospital and he wakes up in his hospital bed and they show him walking through an empty casino. I wrote this down in my notes. If you have to convince people / yourself in a fever dream you didn't do something like kill Elvis, you probably did.
Well,
That
okay.
let's
Here's
talk
where I'm
about
going to
this.
admit something. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about Colonel Tom Parker. I don't know about his relationship to Elvis. If you had said, Devin, I want you to watch this biopic about Colonel Tom Parker, I would be shocked that Elvis, before this movie, I'd have been shocked that Elvis showed up in it and thought you would have shown me like a military thing. Like, I don't know about their drama or their history or like who fell on what side of who. I just know the bits that they showed in the beginning where they were like, he stole millions from Elvis. He's taken a 50% cut. Like, is that really what happened? Is that all true?
So, to an extent, what happened in the film is accurate.
Okay.
Colonel Parker did sign a contract on the tablecloth during Elvis's shows in Vegas. Elvis did not fire him on stage in Vegas.
No.
Okay.
They did fight about other things though, and it wasn't about his true identity and what he was doing the whole time. They didn't fight about that, but he did end up firing him, and then he gave him the bill for $8 million. It wasn't $8 million then; it was like $5 million. The film exaggerates that a bit, but Elvis couldn't pay it, so he was stuck in Vegas. So,
Wow.
and that's what makes me sympathize with the character, because he's so like one of the things on the soundtrack that bugs the hell out of me but makes sense for the film is there's a film version of Suspicious Minds,
Okay.
Stuck in a Trap I Can't Break Out, that goes on for, let me find it, 6 minutes and 17 seconds. Over half of that is just the loop of Stuck in a Trap I Can't Break Out. And it like really gets you to feel like what Elvis, like I always knew Vegas was associated with Elvis. I didn't really know why. I knew he did shows there. I didn't know for how long or how often. I thought maybe it was like some of his specials were in Vegas, and that's why they were so associated with each other. I didn't realize he was there for that many years.
Yeah, I was told by a family member that the reason why he spent the last half of his career in Vegas was because he liked it so much.
Not according to this movie.
No, not according to that. No, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people out there that just assumed that he liked Vegas and decided to make it a cash cow. Like, that
blows my mind, though.
fans.
I didn't know that he was broke in Vegas. Like, I didn't know, and that actually really shocked me about the movie. Like, I thought what I guess your family member assumed, he just thought Vegas was neat.
Yeah. But yeah, so he didn't blow up on his agent. He blew up on Baron Hilton.
The owner.
What, really?
Paris Hilton's grandfather, yeah. He blew up on him because he fired an employee because that employee talked to him, and Elvis went to go visit his dying wife who was dying of cancer. And when Grandpa Hilton found out, Elvis yelled at him for firing him because he wasn't supposed to talk to Elvis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I almost said, remind me, I have something to tell you, a joke to tell you guys after the show.
Oh, goodness.
So the other, I want to talk about the Tom Hanks award nominations quick while we're here.
Okay.
So Elvis has obviously been nominated for a few Oscars, but I want to talk about the other awards that it's nominated for, because they all go to all these nominations go to Tom Hanks.
Okay.
And that is the Razzie Awards. Are you guys familiar with the Razzies?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Okay. For anyone listening or watching at home who doesn't know what the Razzies are the Wario of the Oscars. They are the opposite of. instead of celebrating the best in film for the year, they celebrate the worst. And Elvis has 2 nominations here. First for worst supporting actor for Tom Hanks, and then for worst on-screen couple, it's Tom Hanks and his latex laden face and atrocious accent.
All right.
That is one of the better Razzie Award nominations from this year. They nominated the girl from the Firestarter remake who's 12, and everyone's like, that's a 12-year-old dude. Like, don't. Like, let's not do that. Like, yeah, that's our bad. Like, it's too late now. You did the damage is done. But yeah, so do you think Tom Hanks deserves those award nominations?
It's tough because I know what he's going for with it. That's the thing, is like, it's a choice, and he's doing the choice, and he's making the choice. And for the character, it all fits. It's all a package. As a viewer, I hated it. Like, I can't even think of an equivalent. It's like if somebody really loves olives and they keep shoving olives in your mouth and you hate olives. Like, you get it. People like it.
I have the perfect analogy for it.
Tell me.
Jared Leto.
Yes.
Because you look at House of Gucci that came out 2 years ago, he kind of looks the same. He has the weird Italian accent there where he just sounds like he's from a Mario cartoon. And he's got the same kind of face makeup. Like, that's exactly what it is. Like, it's the Jared Leto. It's Tom Hanks playing Jared Leto pretty much.
Not a sentence I ever thought anyone in the world would say. I kind of hate it.
All right.
But do you think he deserved it?
Okay.
Do you?
I forget what the other nominees are. But I think the accent and the makeup are a bad combination. So I think he at least deserves to win that one.
Well, I know that, like, The Whale got in trouble for the fat suit. Did this one not get any, like, flack for the fat suit?
It didn't. Because I don't think anyone was taking Tom Hanks' performance as seriously as they were in The Whale.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
So, and like the Whale thing, I get where they're coming from with that. But at the same time, Brendan Fraser did a lot. He did put on weight for that. Like, if you watch him in Doom Patrol, which is ending soon, sadly. If you watch him in Doom Patrol, you see that when he does show up in those seasons, like, he is putting on weight for that role. And it's such, like, we'll talk about The Whale whenever I get around to watching it like that. Okay. I've got my own issues with The Whale. Like, I'm excited to see it. I want to support Brendan Fraser. I'm excited to see his performance, but it might be a while until I can make myself watch that.
Fair.
But I'll talk to you guys about why off camera. But yeah, Tom Hanks didn't get any flack for his suit in this because I don't think it's as large as The Whale. Like, it's not like Tom Hanks is immobile because of his prosthetics in this. It's
sure
he's playing a character trying to look like that character who's based on a real person. So.
And the fat suit isn't really the topic of anything. Like,
right.
It never gets brought up, really. It just is what the character looks like.
Yeah. And speaking of, like, I'll save the ending of this movie for the end of the show.
Okay.
Ryan, any thoughts to add there?
The prosthetics and the horrible accent and him getting Razzies. I mean, Alan, just like you said, I'd have to know what the other nominees are, but in both cases, he deserved enough to get nominated for both.
I'm looking up the Razzie nominations now.
I'll answer it that way.
Is it the 2023 ones?
Yes. All right. The weird thing about
2030 ones.
The weird thing about this is, like, oh, I guess it wasn't. Never mind. I thought that Ana de Armas was nominated for Worst Actress here and then Best Actress at the Oscars, but that's not the case. The other worst supporting actors are Pete Davidson in a movie called Good Morning, which I think is the Machine Gun Kelly movie.
Oh, right.
Tom Hanks, Xavier Samuel in Blonde, Maud's son in Good Morning, and Evan Williams in Blonde.
No, I don't know
Yeah.
any of those movies, to be honest.
I know Blonde, I know Blonde's gotten a lot of flack, and I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to it. But I think people expected a Marilyn Monroe biopic that wasn't accurate to what actually happened, and I think that's why a lot of people are upset about that movie.
Oh.
At least that's been my read on it so far. So let's talk about the Baz Luhrmann-ness of this movie, because you guys both turned me on to Moulin Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the Baz Luhrmann-ness of this movie?
Ryan, I'll let you go first on this one.
I'm probably the worst one to go on this. So I know Baz Luhrmann from talking to Kristen is like, he does Moulin Rouge, he does other movies like this. I am one of the worst until I see a bunch of stuff that a director does to be able to comment on a certain director's like niche. I know that he puts modern music into mix with older music for movies. That's as far of a niche as I know what his style is. I was fine with the cat in it. Doja Cat. I feel like it fit for what scene it was. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to pick out other spots where like other music was coming in, but it wasn't as jarring as I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so if we're talking about the music aspect of it, I actually kind of liked the mashup bit of it. And I think I liked it because I think I like specifically what it was used for and when, like, why it was used in the time that it was used. So like the Doja Cat mashup, for example, was meant, I think, purposely to sound a little bit like it fit well with the song. But I think it was almost meant for you to go, Elvis and Doja Cat, really? Like, in kind of the same way that, like, at the time people, because it was during Elvis's rise, essentially, it kind of gave them the same, like, this kind of music, really?
Yeah.
And it fit for what they were going for, and I loved that. I will say, though, Baz Luhrmann's filming style and his edit style, this one was very hit and miss for me. So the Viva Las Vegas scene with the Baz Luhrmann coming through, absolutely loved. 10 out of 10. Love that sequence. I think it's so cool. The beginning bit, I was like, how many flashbacks deep are we now? Is this 5 flashbacks at once on the screen now? And I got a bit in the weeds with that part, I'll have to admit. It was effective, what they were doing, but they were like Tom Hanks in the hospital bed, flashing back to the first time he met Elvis, flashing back to the first time Elvis found music, flashing back to the first time Elvis recorded, and like jumping between all of them at the same time. I went,
That part wasn't as jarring for me because I didn't have trouble following it because it changed styles each time it did it. Like, here's this kid Elvis who thinks he's a superhero from the comic books and wants to go save his dad. Mm-hmm. Do you know what superhero he was referencing in all of those? Like, who was the superhero Elvis admired the most?
Was it Shazam?
No. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
But yes, you're both right. It's Captain Marvel who became Shazam.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he had the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And the cape. Like, that's why Elvis wore capes, is because of Captain Marvel.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's why he look at Elvis's capes and look at Captain Marvel Shazam capes
from like the early comic books.
Yeah. That's where Elvis got his look in Vegas.
Just because he's a comic book nerd? Like, that's why he's wearing a cape?
Yeah.
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 He was the first cosplayer in Vegas.
Yeah.
And now this guy shit.
And now everyone cosplays as him, cosplaying as Shazam.
Yeah. That's so weird.
What I like about the use of the music in this is, I know we talked about this being an issue with the movie and Elvis's career in general, but this movie feels a lot like a hip hop story.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like 8 Mile. To the point where you have Eminem doing the end credit song. Like, I know you turned it off in the ghetto, but he does a song at the end called "The King and I."
Really?
Yes, and I highly recommend you listen to it, But here, I have the lyrics pulled up. There's this one verse that really kind of hits what I'm talking about. Now, I'm about to explain to you all the parallels between Elvis and me, myself. It seems obvious. One, he's pale as me. Second, we both been hailed as kings. He used to rock the jailhouse. I used to rock the shelter. Like Velveeta, shells, and cheese. But y'all miss the meaner me back when I had felonies. That went over your head because you just fell on your knees. You literally knelt to me. I used to have no self-esteem. I used to cry myself to sleep. Like,
wow.
It kind of, like, yeah, like it's very similar. Like if you look at the stories of the two of them, like
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, take away the fact that it's a different musical genre. When Eminem became popular, you had a lot of people saying the same stuff about Eminem that you had people saying about Elvis when Elvis was first coming up, because of the style of music that they were portraying.
I mean,
yeah.
Eminem directly addresses that in the song too.
Yeah, and Eminem pretty much saying like, yeah, this is where I come from, like this is the neighborhood that I came from. And Elvis was the same story with him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
The only use of modern music that kind of took me out of the movie for a second was the use of Backstreet's Back after the comeback special.
No, I loved it. No.
I completely missed that.
No, it was so good. I think you queued us up for it. I think you told us about it, so I was waiting for it. But no, that was actually really good.
And then like when he's doing the I Want to Play House with You during the first performance where all the girls are going crazy and the guitar riff from Come Together starts playing, I'm like, I see what you did there. I get that.
The dirty one.
Yeah. But outside of the modern music stuff, was there anything Elvis music related in here that stood out to you guys that you enjoyed? Because there is several musical performances in here.
Yeah, and I can't remember the song, but I really like the sequence where they had basically Elvis was supposed to be like old boring Elvis in that really big concert.
The outdoor one?
The outdoor one. And what was it? Did he play? Is it called Rude or something like that?
Trouble.
That was it. I really liked that. That was really cool.
That's one of the things that they took liberties with. That song did not exist until Elvis started a movie with that song.
Sure,
but it plays to what the story of the film is telling, which is there's this group of people who know how dangerous an artist like Elvis can be, and they want him to conform to what they think he should be doing. And he's up on stage saying, I'm evil. Danger is my middle name. Like he's just saying, no, forget that. I'm doing this. Like, this is what I want to do. And like sticking it to the man.
Yeah, that part, I don't know why that part resonated so well. And maybe that was like the most hip hop thing I think he did up until that point in the movie. But I was like, yeah, you get it, man.
Yeah. Ryan, how about you?
That was I'm going to go with Devin. That's the only song that actually kind of piqued my interest a little bit because, like I said, I grew up with people in my family who had like Elvis greatest hits albums, so I pretty much have heard at one point or another every song that they played in this to a point, except for that one. But I also caught on to like, okay, so they're playing this song, it lines up perfectly with what's going on in the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like his first protest song, in a sense.
I already said that mine was "If I Can Dream," the comeback special song. I don't know what it's just how close to home those lyrics still hit for me, but the "Viva Las Vegas" sequence going into that whole chunk of the movie I thought was fantastic. I also enjoyed the Kirk, Spock, and Uhura pictures behind everyone in the control booth the whole time. So I was trying to find an answer on this, and I can't get a definitive answer. Because Ryan, I know you and I have gone at it when it comes to these biopics before about the artists, the actors singing the parts.
Yes.
And I couldn't find the exact number of what Austin Butler sang, but he did do a lot of the singing himself. But
Okay.
they do use clips of Elvis throughout the film as well. Did you guys find it jarring at all that he, like, his singing and the mix of Elvis? Could you tell? Did you think it was all Elvis or all him? Like, what did you think?
Oh, I straight up thought it was all Elvis. I didn't know that the actor was singing it all, and I'm very impressed because if it moved back and forth, I straight up couldn't. I mean, except for the Unchained Melody bit at the end where they literally cut to like a real.
We'll save that. We'll save that. We'll save
Okay,
that.
okay, later. But yeah, no, I didn't catch it at all.
Ryan,
Yeah, I didn't really think about it throughout the entire movie. So I mean, if he did, great. That's cool that they were able to find someone who looked like him and sounded like him, enough like him to pull that off. And then the fact that they did both goes to them trying to find, okay, so if the guy we hired can't do it, we can always go to the recordings and just have it be a voiceover.
yeah,
And that's honestly the best you can hope for, I think, when you're doing something like this.
yeah, because Elvis's voice, like, it's everyone can do an Elvis impression. Like, Devin, give us yours.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, see, like,
I say you just do it.
Ryan, I'm not even going to bother asking.
No, because I mean here, and this is gonna might change the mood. The Elvis impersonation that people do is from when he was in Vegas, from when he was heavily in drugs, and throughout his career, and in interviews, you can tell that his voice was never truly like that. When he was younger and coming up, and even in Hollywood, he had a Southern accent, but you could understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
And his voice changed throughout his life, and then you get to Vegas, and everyone does the Vegas impersonation of what you see Elvis impersonators do wherever you go, and it's the very sluggish, run-on sentence, voice, and it's because he was high on pills.
The one thing that this movie really changed my outlook on Elvis in general for is the caricature of Elvis, like the cartoon that he's become in Vegas now. Like,
yeah,
the fat Elvis. Like, I just feel bad. Like, that's what he's known for. Like, that and peanut butter and bacon sandwiches. Like, it's sad. Like, they because, like, none of us were alive for Elvis. So that's what we grew up with, was like that, and like Uncle Jesse, like, admiring him on Full House. Like, that was like my introduction to Elvis. Like, Uncle Jesse, like, being like, watch the hair, huh? Like, that's the Elvis that I come to know. But it just puts it in a whole new light for me.
Well, and it definitely makes it, like, I mean, because you're right. Like, the fat Elvis thing, from what we've been told, is kind of it's a funny thing. It's like, I don't know, it's a bit like Fat Thor. You know what I mean? Like, look at this. He used to be this stud, now he's chubby. And, like, this movie definitely makes it seem more like a tragedy. I mean, because of this, I think, like, either me or someone looked up, like, Elvis's last days, and there were apparently, like, weeks that he wouldn't leave the house, in weeks that he wouldn't shower. And, like, how tragic. Like, from being literally on top of the world to, like, you won't leave the house or even take care of yourself is just awful.
Yeah. And yeah.
So the one, like, we talked about Austin Butler's singing in this. I have an article here that has how much it actually was. It's actually Austin Butler's voice when he in his younger years, and then so exclusively in his younger years, it's Butler. But as the singer ages, Butler's voice is blended with tapes of midlife Elvis to give similar vocal tone as possible. And that was a choice by Baz Luhrmann. They did it to pay respect to Priscilla and Lisa Marie, who were, when the film was being made, still around. Like they, sadly, Lisa Marie has passed since. We'll get into that here in a bit. But what I think is fascinating about this whole Austin Butler thing is, have you guys seen any interviews with Austin Butler since this movie came out?
No, not one.
No.
He's still doing the voice. He can't drop it.
What?
Because we talked before about where were you when Tom Hanks got COVID in 2020. Yeah. He did this for 2 years, and he still has like the deep Elvis tone going through all the interviews. Like if you watch the Actors Roundtable that I think Hollywood Reporter or Variety did, it's him and Colin Farrell and Brendan Fraser, and Austin Butler sounds like he's Elvis through the whole thing, and it's not something that he can drop. Like his vocal coach has said, that's probably not going away anytime soon.
Oh my gosh.
So
that poor guy.
Was it worth it?
Would you rather have that be it, or be known for that, or be known for starring in Yoga Hosers?
Okay, yeah, no, but I mean, like, this movie was good and everything, but let's say he can't drop that for 10 years.
I mean, it's a muscle. It's a muscle that he just has to, like, he'll get there eventually. Like it will start to fade eventually, but he was so deep in it for so long, because not only is it the acting, it's also the singing. Like if he's performing outside of the set to do the soundtrack, like it's there too. So we're about out of time here. So I want to touch on a few things that we haven't talked about yet. Mm-hmm. First being the ending of this film. We talked a bit about the Unchained Mentally performance in this, and I think that's the one that really stuck with me, because the film does something that I absolutely was floored by, where they put Austin Butler in makeup to do Elvis's final performance of Unchained Mentally, and they cut to a flashback of young Elvis at the revival, and then they cut back to real Elvis, and it, like, the way it hits with the music, like that's why Baz Luhrmann did this movie. Like that's why you need somebody like him to direct this, because that moment is so powerful and brings the whole thing home. Like this was a real guy. This is an exaggeration of what happened, but it's what happened. He died after this. Like this is an artist's final performance. It just brought the whole thing home, and just like, I don't think I can ever hear that song and again, any version of it, and not think of that.
I'm exactly in the same boat. I mean, that moment was one of the best moments of the whole movie. Was the Unchained Melody. And the thing that I love is that the only thing that I really know about Elvis's final performance is people are like, I did it my way in the final performance, and I thought that that's how this movie was going to end, was on his I did it my way, and it didn't. And I think it was a better choice for it.
Ryan, thoughts?
I'm with Devin on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a documentary that HBO Max has that they aired when they re-released this film at the beginning of the month for Elvis's birthday. Mm-hmm. There was a documentary called Man from Talipo, where it pretty much just goes through the movie beat for beat and like tells you what the movie is. And it's like, I don't know why I'm watching this, but it talks about that last moment. And they like deep dive into like the moment where Elvis turns and like smirks at the audience. Like, did you like that? Like, this is all for you. And like seeing that seeing the real Elvis do that in the movie is like, that's really what brought it home for me the second time I watched this for the show. I was like, oh. And I finally do want to address the reason I watched this when I did. I watched it after the Golden Globes, after Lisa Marie Presley had died. There's been some news about what led to her death earlier this year, and it's just tragic. She was trying to lose. Supposedly, she was trying to lose weight for us for like the award season to look good, because she was at the Golden Globes with Austin Butler. But it also got her back onto opioids, and she dropped 45 pounds in 3 months.
Ouch.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's just really tragic, and like made the Lisa Marie stuff in this just even more like heartbreaking. So
I also
yeah.
don't love that she felt like she had to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. It has to do with the societal pressure on a family, and it's just like, you listen to her song "The Lights Went Out in Memphis," and it's like the chorus of that. That's where my family's dead and gone. Like, and there's a spot for me there too. Like that's practically, that's not word for word, but that's what the lyrics are to her big hit. And it's like, it's sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to, like, that's part of what made me watch this, like, just out of respect for her, like, 'cause it was just sad, like seeing her on the red carpet with Austin Butler. It's like, oh, that's so nice, like that they made this movie without the family's permission, but then the family saw it and embraced it and was like, this is wonderful, thank you so much. Like, to know that they were all on board with it after the fact, it's heartwarming. And that, like, Austin Butler and Baz Luhrmann were at her funeral in Graceland, or at Graceland. So
I didn't know about that, and I love that. Like, I love that the family embraced it. It's weird that they didn't get permission, but I like that they embraced it so much.
I mean, I think they had to get permission for the music, but I don't think they knew about it until they didn't know the final product until they saw it.
Wow.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's. They're lucky they got permission without. I mean, got the sign off after the fact.
I think Warner Brothers had probably owned the rights to Elvis's story, and probably the music catalog too. So
yeah, it's easier now. When it comes to social media, one of the things that is available now to people that wasn't in the past, if let's say one of our grandparents was a celebrity and they make a movie about it and we don't agree with it, we can easily go to Twitter and be like, hey, I'm this famous person's like great grandson and I don't agree with it. And even if you get like 10% of like, like the like entertainment media blogs and companies to like run your story, it turns it into a national story about a said piece of media. So they're lucky that they were able to get the okay from the family, at least at the bare least, to where they were like, hey, you didn't ask us if this was okay to begin with, but now that we see the finished product, it's okay, we're behind it.
And I think I would much rather a story like this where they at least sign off on it, like knowing who, like Baz Luhrmann probably had to meet with the Presley estate and be like, listen, this is what we're looking to do. This is how we're going about the story. They probably had to get the okay for that, but they didn't have to embrace it the way that they did. They didn't have to go to the Golden Globes. Austin Butler didn't have to say that he's giving the award to the family, which in the chat here, they're saying that he did.
Did he? Oh.
Yeah, there are a lot of things for a biopic like this that you don't have to do. I like this approach to it a lot more than, hey, the Michael Jackson estate's making a Michael Jackson biopic, and it's gonna, and the Jackson family's involved in the production, and Michael Jackson's gonna be played by his nephew, Jermaine's son, like one of Jermaine's kids, and I'm like, that just feels weird. Like,
is that a real thing?
No, that's a real thing. Like that's happening next.
Ew.
No. But like from what I've heard, like I haven't seen any clips of the kid who's going to be playing Michael Jackson dance, but evidently he's got that whatever the Jackson move style is, like he has it. Like he looks like Michael.
The dancing jeans.
The dancing jeans, yeah. The dancing bell bottom jeans, yeah.
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 But that's all I've got on Elvis. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I got to say literally everything I wanted to. I think we covered all
Okay.
my notes.
Yeah, the only other thing that kind of made me mad a little bit was when I found out that him and BB King weren't really like friends when they were growing up. They would have been acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no hard evidence to show that they actually knew each other. There's only some like evidence to say, well, it was Memphis. They would have hung out in the same circles, but there's nothing there to say that they were like close friends or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's just certain things that they did with when it comes to these music biopics. I'm okay with some freedom and liberty to the storyline to get the movie going, but there's certain things that I feel like if a certain friendship didn't exist or if a certain event didn't actually happen, there's a line to the like implications to what that might, end up showing to an audience where you can't that it's like you shouldn't cross over. And I
Yeah.
feel like him being buddy with BB King is one of those that shouldn't have happened in the movie.
I didn't read it as they were buddy. I read it as he admired him from a distance before he was famous, and then when he became famous, they were in the same circles and at least had one conversation.
That conversation to me showed more depth of a friendship there
Okay.
that they didn't show before. That's where I'm coming from with
Okay.
Sure.
that. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like there's that. There's other things that would take forever to talk about, so I'm just not gonna
You're fine.
bring it up.
So next week, Ryan, is supposed to be your pick, but we talked
Yeah.
about this, and I think because it came up earlier in the show, I think we're going to commandeer your pick next week and talk about Titanic in time for the 25th anniversary release. Does that work for you?
I guess.
What did you have for next week?
The Burbs. Tom Hanks.
I need a break from Tom Hanks. No, it's your pick. It's your pick. Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
So, the Burbs or the Berg?
I see what you did there. Ouch.
That is absolutely horrible. You know, I think no. I'm going to come at you guys from left field here.
Okay.
Okay. Ready.
The Running Man.
Okay. Interesting choice.
Okay.
Alan, you know that one, right?
I've never
least
seen
heard of it.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay.
What haven't I heard of? You see my results for Framed.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so The Running Man next week on You Have to Watch This
Nice.
podcast. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Twitch. Listen to You Have to Watch This podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And I have an announcement. I have started a new show over on Victims and Villains called Brilliant But Lazy, where me and my former fellow Marvel correspondent, Josh Howell, and I will be talking not only about Marvel stuff, but some other fun pop culture topics as well. Our first episode is out now on the Victims and Villains YouTube channel and should be in podcast feeds wherever you get your podcasts, where we rank Marvel Phase 4 and talk about our 10 favorite comic book movies of all time. So it's a good time if you can check it out. It's a supersized first episode. So check that out. In the meantime, for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin. Tried.
And the podcast has left the building. See you next week.
Ryan, I do it for you. I do it for that face every time.